Welcome to our community. Susie Thomas with you this morning. So happy to welcome Don Yoder and Austin Yoder of Global Priority. Good morning to both of you.
Thanks.
Good morning.
You know, when we talk about Global Priority, really talking about quite an amazing, impressive project that started how long ago, Don? And it's kind of all-encompassing.
Yeah, it really is. It probably started about 30 years ago, and it started out with an organization called LARED. And it's developed into Global Priority, which Global Priority is a system of taking values and principles based out of the book of Proverbs, but making it something that any organization could incorporate into what it's doing. That includes everything from schools to correction facilities. There's been country initiatives done in places like Guatemala, Colombia, Paraguay, where hundreds of thousands of people are involved in getting roundtables into their daily life. A roundtable is that process of bringing the value into your life. Things like honesty, responsibility, hope, generosity, that type of thing. How do we put this into practical application in our life? And that's the system that's been developed over the decades.
And as long as you don't call it Bible, it's okay to do?
Well, yeah,
Anywhere?
you know, it is. It really is. We put it together in a way where it's just what a lot of us would call common sense, what a lot of us would term as, just doing the right thing. And it's just a way of taking that practical application. Yeah, maybe not say Jesus and God. It may not say, Proverbs chapter 12.
Proverbs does not say Jesus and God often.
That's actually true.
Yeah.
It's just those ideas of what helps society work better and what personally makes your life work better and brings you into a place of personal growth.
When you take these into around a boardroom, what is the reaction? Do they realize, hey, wait, isn't that in Proverbs? Or do they have that reaction?
Some people do.
Isn't that interesting?
Some people, it's funny because I've been in environments, corporate environments that are not my environment and facilitated a round table. And afterwards, somebody will come over and kind of nudge me and go, hey, good job getting that in here. They kind of see it. They do, but overall, the response that I get from people who are believers or non-believers, for some people, it is reignite something from their childhood. Maybe they've been in a church or in a situation, they went to church with their grandma or they went to church with a friend or vacation Bible school or something, that it reignites it or brings that to the front of their mind. And then for other people who have no church background, they're just like, wow, this really helped me make better decisions with my family. This helped me be a better mom. This helped me be a better wife, a better friend, a better daughter, a better son. And that's really what we're looking for. It's just to help people live a better life.
Yes. And wow, let me tell you about the whole entire book that you can find this in.
Exactly.
Might even direct them into, and wow, what they would find there. Well, another one of the things that's so interesting is the antivirus program. And Austin, I understand that, many years ago, you were part of the pilot project.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Well, it was when I was in high school. And I was still kind of just a kid, but they sort of, they translated it from Spanish. And so I was sort of a part of this group of, I guess, kids. And what we had to do was sort of say, hey, this translation, we had a really rough English translation, and say, how does this connect to the kids of today? And so I was a part of that. But then as the years went on and we sort of revised the program and started adding more volumes to it, then I ended up becoming part of like the actual writing process. So ever since then, coming out of college, I majored in English. So at first I just started sort of editing for them. But then as time went on, then I started to actually be able to write materials for antivirus.
We see this in the public schools all the time now. The antivirus program is very popular.
Yes, it is, especially Northeast Ohio.
Yes.
We're in a lot of schools, and Austin even mentors for antivirus. So he goes into the classroom and does the antivirus sessions, and it's just been really great. It's just the way of taking values into the public school system, just a way to help kids. It reduces bullying. It brings up their grades. It helps them have better relationships with friends and family and teachers. Just the comments that we get back on it are so positive and so encouraging. It's just been really awesome and a blessing to have Austin be a part of that growth of that project.
From the beginning. It's really, really fun. So you're kind of a product of this, and now you're also really part of the development as it goes forward as well. Because Austin, tell us how old you are now.
I'm 25.
So you are a millennial.
I am a millennial.
And everyone talks
absolutely.
about how do we incorporate millennials into the workplace now, because they think differently. They're wired differently. Do I offend you when I say this?
No, it's true. We are wired differently. Like, we are legitimately, factually wired differently because of all the influences that we have now, and just the technology and different things that ways are done now.
Putting it in perspective, who has always been head of The Tonight Show? When you think of The Tonight Show, who has hosted it? Okay, you don't watch The Tonight Show.
I'm sorry.
Doesn't watch TV.
No, he watches Netflix.
Okay,
That's on there.
Netflix and
okay,
Hulu
yes.
and YouTube.
Who does television? Exactly. You don't
Yeah.
even exactly. You go to Netflix. Who cares about any TV series, right?
Yeah.
You binge whatever
A
is
little bit.
fun that you find.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a completely different mindset. One of my favorite things every year, because I used to work at a college, was whatever that new coming in class to think that they'd never lived without a microwave oven. They never, all these kinds of things that we were just so newfangled.
I know we used to have to boil hot dogs.
We
It's
did.
crazy, but it happened.
Oh,
It used to
what?
happen. You used to wait a long time. And so, it is an entirely different mindset. Social media and computers. You kids have cut your teeth on them. So kind of talk to me about where you are coming from with all of that.
Yeah, I mean, and I didn't, like, now especially I'm seeing some of the youth of today with, actually.
Because now you're
can
the
I
old
mention,
guy.
Yeah, now
now you're
I'm
kind
the
of-
old guy, I guess. And so, like, I'm still involved with those things, but maybe not as much. But I've seen it. I have a little sister who is right in that, and I'm seeing a
Yes.
lot of kids.
Yeah, she's
'Cause
Generation Z.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
she's 14. She's living right in the middle of that next wave.
And I mean, I've taught in some schools, and so I definitely see that. Actually, something else that Global Priority is doing is we're calling it Regen, and it's actually kind of trying to tap into that, because with social media and with, like, mental health and how that's going nowadays for
Right.
students so young,
Yes.
we're seeing a need, and so we're kind of trying to bring
Yeah.
that to a little bit of we have antivirus for middle school and then also into high school.
Yeah, so antivirus is middle school, and now we're looking at antivirus regeneration is a product that we're actually going to be piloting this year.
That is
that
awesome.
Austin and I are working on to help with high school students, because we've seen, especially even in our area, a great increase of suicide, just
Yes.
students that need to be on anxiety medication, those type of things. There's so much going on around them, and we just need that minute to help them navigate it all. They are being flooded, inundated by messages to be perfect,
Yeah.
to be completely in control, to be an individual who stands out but not stand out too much. It's all these conflicting messages, and it's just really hard on kids. It's really hard on forcing them to navigate waters that they're really not ready for. And so just to have that moment, I think, will be really important.
And difficult for parents because didn't have the same waters.
No.
They were an entirely different lake.
Yeah.
When they were in high school.
Completely different.
It has transformed. Everything has changed so much over the last generation. And right now you have in the workplace probably up to 4 or 5 generations all working together.
Yes, we do.
So for the first time ever, because the older ones aren't ready. They're the baby boomers. And since baby is in their name, they consider themselves young people.
Oh, yeah.
And they are not going to give up that job
not leaving.
to some
Say
whippersnapper.
that, what is so hilarious, just this last Saturday, we were loading up a bunch of ladders that we had sold in our company. And it was like, my dad is a baby boomer. My husband and I were there working. So we're both Generation X.
Right.
My sons are there. So Austin is a millennial, and then I have another millennial son, but then I have a Generation Z
Yes.
son. So we're all working together. You have all these generations working together, and it's a little crazy. You could totally see how we all think differently and how we're trying to make it work. And just thinking that that's just our little family microcosm. Now blow that up in the big world. At least we have these things that we think alike in because we're from the same culture.
Right, you
But
have it
now you start
shared.
mixing cultures and you start mixing
Yes.
different things, and it just gets even more complicated. And that's why it's so important to find the things that we can agree on, how to value each other, how to listen to one another, how to respect one another, how to operate, function together and celebrate. Yeah, we can celebrate our differences, and we should, but we should also celebrate those things that connect us, those ties that bind, the things that make us all human. And so that's what really this program focuses on, is what do we agree on and where can we identify with one another and build some bridges.
Well, I love it. And let's go to Proverbs. Better place than, that. There is not a better place than that. So you've actually really focused on the millennials now, incorporating how do we reach millennials with this message of global priority. And Austin, you were integral in that. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, well, one thing was simply the language, of course, because the original global priority stuff it is very business focused because it's for that. But when you bring that into with kids, that just doesn't connect. So understanding, for me, it was some of the things that they are experiencing, like with social media, and some things don't even ever change, like kids and their relationships, like with their friends, and how do they navigate that. It's just the nature of how they're doing that has changed. So understanding those things and trying to make it relevant for them, but never forgetting the things that have always worked and will always work.
Yeah, you have to understand the big difference that we have, like baby boomers down to millennials. You have live to work. That's the philosophy is live to work. With millennials, the philosophy has shifted to work to live. So some language had to change in order to engage and identify with that generation.
For example, how did you do that? How did you go about changing language, and what language had to change from what to what?
Well, just like, if you're talking about maybe relationships, or let's say in some of the values, it might talk about, like, I've recently been kind of going through dependability. That's a value that we have, and sort of retooling that for younger generation who's in school. And, with dependability, it talks about things like showing up on time. And dependability is also about, like, making sure that you always follow through on your words, which are things that kids understand, right? Like, so you change that to always follow through maybe on your promises, or, showing up on time. That's definitely something they have to know. But then how do you put that in sort of maybe a school context, or maybe like relationships with your friends? Because like maybe in their case, it's more like they might blow off their friends or something because they want to go on their
Original
phones,
language was more organized towards family, co-workers, that type of thing. When we're kind of going for that younger generation, we are targeting a lot with your social relationships.
It's more
with
relational.
Yeah,
definitely.
Again, because of social media, it's relating all the time. The other thing is you've been raised differently. You've been raised, being text-added all the time. I mean, so much communication, so much accessibility. It's almost overload. And I'm guessing, correct me where I'm wrong here, that you've had to learn how to just filter out some things.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
It's very true. And again, I haven't experienced this as much as some other people have. But it's true. There really is a lot to filter right now. You have voices from everywhere talking to you and telling you about what you should do and how you should think and how you should do that. And it's really difficult for someone like growing up. Even for me, it's hard. And for younger people now, it's even harder.
And I think, too, that's why one of the values that we're most focused on into the regen for antivirus with high school is that value of boundaries. Because one of the things that's really important is to understand what are healthy boundaries, how to establish them. I mean, for me, as a Gen X adult lady, I've investigated things with Henry Cloud and, things like that, where I've had more time on the earth to understand the bad effect of not having good boundaries and all those type of things. But when you're that age, you're getting bombarded with needing to set boundaries and not feeling adequate to set them. I know that for someone I'm 49, so as someone at my age, how hard that can be with people to set boundaries. Now take someone who's 15. And how do they know how to do that without some assistance, and to understand that it's okay to set a boundary and why your boundaries need to have some give and why you don't want to make them a brick wall and all those things. And that's one of the things that Austin's been working on to help us figure out how to relate that into that generation.
Well, so many things are in the tone of voice. For example, how to pronounce no, but you can say that in the right tone of voice without offending someone. It's tougher to do when you are texting someone or posting something about it. No, can't do it, sorry. But in the right tone of voice, you can say almost anything to almost anybody. But you don't have enough face-to-face with people if everything is done electronically. Said that, need to take a break. So we will be back with Dawn and Austin Yoder after these words. You're listening to Our Community.